Today, we welcome you to the start of the Le Mans Virtual Series for 2022. However, with the sad passing of Queen Elizabeth II last week, we wanted to take some time and pay our respects from everyone here at the Le Mans Virtual Series organisation. Hello everyone and welcome along to qualifying day for the start of the second season of the Le Mans Virtual Series. My name is Ben Costanjuris and this evening I'll be joined by Chris McCarthy alongside me and Lewis McGlade later on. Thank you very much, Chris, firstly for joining me. We're getting bigger and bigger and better every single year.
Yeah, we're here for season number 2. It's been quite a while since we were out there for the 24-hour Le Mans Virtual, the second running. But, you know, it's been worth the wait. You know, we are bigger and better. You know, the entry list, absolutely fantastic. When that came out, couldn't take my eyes off it. It's going to be an awesome season. Not only the entry list has that got better, but the calendar has got even better as well. It's going to be really, really exciting season.
This evening, we're going to kick off qualifying in the Bahrain International Circuit, a brand new offering in our Factor 2, and it just looks absolutely stunning to go racing at. The longest race, apart from the Le Mans 24 hours, that we'll experience in our virtual series.
Yeah, and that means more points up for grabs as well. So this is going to be a really, really important round for the drivers, not only from a strategy point of view, but also because there's more points going up for grabs for the winner as well. So definitely an important round for the guys to get right. This could be where almost you put yourself 1 foot, you know, in front of the other in terms of the championship. This could where you get really a grip on the series going towards that 24-hour race if you get it right this evening.
Bahrain is always a really challenging circuit and venue because you start in the day, you finish in the night. It's so hot in the desert, of course, but actually it gets very quiet and very cold in the evening. So the Goodyear offering of soft, medium and hard compound tyres could be used and will really mix up the strategy.
Yeah, strategy was something that, you know, the Redline team did very, very well last year, and that's something that helped them win the title, particularly in the GTE class as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how the other teams react to that this season and see if they can go and counter that. But Redline in both categories, strategy-wise, was what they really had a stronghold of the championship last year in comparison to the other teams. Team
Redline is one of the most famous names in sim racing, certainly well known in the real world of motorsport as well. But we have proper manufacturers coming to challenge them this year. Mercedes-AMG. We also have effectively a works Porsche entry in both categories through Coanda. We are seeing so much, even more interest from these manufacturers in virtual racing.
Yeah, and the Brabham name coming back as well is a, you know, a really exciting entry in the LMP class as well. So some heavy hitters. This is the Le Mans Virtual Series, isn't it? This is where all the big manufacturers want to be, and this is where all the big manufacturers are.
Before we get on to our Le Mans Virtual Series qualifying, we are going to kick off with the Cup, and that allows 2 drivers from anywhere in the world to qualify and be part of a team, which will then enter in the Le Mans 24 hours with 2-star drivers. Last year, in our studio in Paris, it was Sebastian Montoya and Juan Pablo Montoya that those 2 drivers partnered with. And this is a little flavour of what it's like to be there.
We are seconds away from the start. Formation lap is almost over.
And here comes Verstappen into the lead of the race already. Drogovic respectful to his pseudo teammate, and Max Verstappen leads Le Mans.
That journey for the prize in the Le Mans Virtual Cup begins here at Sebring. This is where we are going to kick off the battle. Who is going to win that prize that saw Luca Di Meglio and Christopher Hugfeld last year battling with Juan Pablo Montoya and Sebastian Montoya against the rest of the field in the guest car. A fantastic prize it was for those two drivers who raced in the Le Mans Virtual Cup, then went on to race with Sebastian Montoya and Juan Pablo Montoya in the 24-hour of Le Mans Virtual against the rest of the field. And it's gone on to do fantastic things for the likes of both drivers, particularly Christopher Hugfeld, Lewis.
Yes, indeed. What a sensational season it was last season, of course. Like we said before, the two that went through, that was Luca Di Meglio and Christopher Hugfeld. Hugfeld, who is actually racing in this season of Le Mans Virtual, but there are still a few things up for grabs. We've said before that there are a couple of drivers as well that took part last season and ended up moving their way on into either a seat in Le Mans Virtual itself or even a seat for this season. Henry Sinnick being one of them, along with Jimmy Nisler picking up drives at the Satellite Racing. They didn't win the Le Mans Virtual Cup, but they took part and they were scouted by a team.
Well, of course, it's great to have you back. Myself, Chris McCarthy, Lewis McLeod called you through all the action last year. And particularly last year, I think one thing we saw was that the battle of the points was very, very close throughout. But one thing we saw last year, Lewis, was drivers getting scouted throughout the season, didn't we? Because not all the drivers had to go all the way to the end of the Le Mans Virtual Cup to end up completing in the series.
No, of course not. Like we said, with Jimmy Nisler and Henry Sinnick doing that kind of work, working their way through. They're not the only examples. There are a few others that have gone that kind of distance and that route. And that's why we love a series like this, is that there are other kind of routes, other aspects that people can take to kind of find their way through.
It's a fantastic series. We're going to see some fantastic battling all the way throughout. Of course, we're not going to see them go all the way the same series. They're battling for that prize to race in the 24-hour of Le Mans Virtual. Lewis here did a little bit of an explain it into how the Le Mans Virtual Cup works. Here it is for you now.
The Le Mans Virtual Cup supports the Le Mans Virtual Series across 4 rounds, with individual drivers battling it out for the chance to participate in the 24-hour Le Mans Virtual next year. Everyone taking part will be driving the Ligier LMP3 with identical fixed setups. Each round will feature multiple splits of 30 participants in a 45-minute rolling start race, with each driver required to make at least one pit stop during proceedings. We begin with the Sebring International Raceway, then we move on to Monza, then to Spa-Francorchamps before we wrap things up in Bahrain. The 2 highest scoring drivers across the Le Mans Virtual Cup will land a coveted drive together with 2 special guest drivers at the 24-hour Le Mans Virtual in January 2023. Qualifying for the Le Mans Virtual Cup is open to everyone on the rFactor 2 platform, so if you'd like to get involved, stay tuned to our social media channels to find out when qualifying opens for the next round.
And there it is, all explained for you from Lewis. Now, one thing, of course, we're going to be racing here at Sebring first, and as we did last season, we're going to be doing it in LMP3 cars as well. So talk us a little bit about that challenge, Lewis. LMP3 cars around Sebring, what's that like?
Yeah, the tiniest difference to what we had last season. Last season we were in the Norma LMP3. This time we're in the Ligier LMP3. Tiny differences between the 2 cars, which means that some of those that had experience from last season might actually struggle to get used to the subtle nuances between the 2. Won't matter too much, really, in the long run. But Sebring itself, in a car like this, you're talking of medium downforce. You're talking of quite a bit of power going to the rear wheels. Just under 600 brake horsepower, going to those just rear-wheel drive, a little bit traction control, but not really much. Big bumps at Sebring. It makes it really, really tricky.
And it's going to be a 45-minute race again, as it was. We're going to have to see pit stops required because they don't have the full tank of fuel in the car, which means they're going to have to come in. So how long are we going to be seeing them do the race, do you think? I know it's 51 litres, I think they get in. So how long is that going to take?
Yeah, typically it's a 100-litre fuel tank. They're limited down to 51. Expected run times around about half an hour of running. Maybe get it a little bit longer than that, but normally it's about half hour where you were expecting, which is about 2/3 of the way into the race. That's the expectation. Bit of fuel saving, bit of fuel management,
will save you a bit of time in the pit stop in that stationary time. Obviously, the more you save, the more you don't have to put into the car. So fuel saving is going to be a little bit important, but this is going to be an out-and-out brawl around that circuit. And what a track it is as well.
And for people watching who have rFactor 2, maybe just missed out on this, didn't quite know that this existed, this is almost a good chance for them to say, right, let's see how this works. After this, there's 2 more rounds, because the final round of the season, which is going to be at Bahrain, is just going to be for the top 30 in the points. That will be then an extra point score when the top 2 at the end of that will go through. But this is almost a chance for them, isn't it? Just for them to figure it out before they can go on and then have the chance to qualify, because qualifying opens Sunday for round 2. Yeah. This could be a chance for them to go, let's see how this works, and then maybe I can get a chance to get on the big screens and maybe get scouted myself like we saw with Cynic.
Absolutely. There's some drivers as well, whether they're on different simulators or whether they're not even really in sim racing, and think, I can give this a go. For one, there are multiple splits. So that's one big plus, is that you don't just have to be top split. There are races in lower splits where they can take part and they can actually just enjoy the race, less so from a super serious point of view, more so just to get out there, get used to rFactor 2, all done through the competition system. No signing up to big leagues, no paying massive entry fees, no having to find a big team to come and drive for. You just take to the car, do the qualifying, and then, hey, maybe you will be a part of a grid like this.
Well, as you said, there's a lot of races going on. We are just watching the top 30 of them, and here are the cars on screen now going on their formation lap. So here we can see them making their way around. Our first real look at them. And the good thing is, all in the same car as well. So a full level playing field we see out there.
Yes, indeed. Like I say, it's all equal, fixed setup as well. So those that have thousands of hours in a car, no advantage. It's about you, it's about the driver, it's about working your way around a circuit like this and kind of finding those little bits. Your practice is essentially your qualifying, and that's what's really, really important from them, is to make the most of that session.
Well, we can see the cars making their way round. Let's go through how they're going to line up. We've got Zolt Suits there in the number 34, Michael Leroux in the number 13, Leandro Pupo, who we saw last season as well, fighting towards the front. So we do have some names like that who are recognisable from last season.
Yeah, indeed. A couple of other ones that might be well known from the community around sim racing. Of course, like we said, with Zolt Suits, he's been well known within the rFactor 2 community. Pupo, like we said before, Leandro and Lucas Verla, twins, Brazilian twins, that normally race for Snowshat and esports. Johannes Dries is another one. Stepbrothers Racing in I can't remember how the actual relation is. I think I said it before. It was brother-in-law. Will be racing in the Le Mans Virtual Series tomorrow. So that'll be very exciting to see how Philip Dries gets along. But we get to see Johannes Dries racing here. Walter Plesny, though, looked really quick in the pre-qualifiers. Got a bit of work to do for the mid-pack.
Yeah, Jose Beringer there in the 35 on row 2. Leandro Verla, as you mentioned, Guillaume Rakadin also on row number 3. Then row 4, Dennis Zetak, Florian Cisse on row 4. Row 5, we've got Stavros Musadis and Lucas Verla as well. So those are going to be your top 10 drivers. Martin Merguli down the field was a driver we saw last year. Watch out for Walter Plesny, was one of the top qualifiers through, is in the number 1 car, as well as Sean J. Arnold as well, down starting in 18th place, but in the number 3 car. We'll keep an eye out for him throughout the race. Drivers making their way now round towards the start-finish line here at Sebring. We are getting ready to go for 45 minutes of racing, and for the first time this season in the Le Mans Virtual Cup, the green flag is waved and the drivers make their way down towards turn number 1 through the left-hander here at Sebring, and Zolt Suits leads us through the left-hander and down in towards the first braking zone. Do we get everyone through nice and safely? Someone on the grass on the inside there, and that was always going to end in tears. I think everyone just about able to keep the car pointing in a straight line. We do have a yellow flag out early doors here, but quickly back in again. But other than that, a relatively clean start to get us underway in the Le Mans Virtual Cup.
Yeah, we had a good start from Zolt Suits. He was able to clear quite a lead into the first corner, but that was brought straight back back in by Leroux and by Pupo. Don't count out the likes of Verla. You said about Merguli, by the way, who started outside of the top 10. Boom, he's in 6th position at the moment. Superstar, as well as Wojtek Polesny, who's inside the top 10 now with a 9th spot as they run side by side, coming up towards Cunningham.
Yeah, great start there from Merguli. Schuch has done a really good job out front as well. Leroux in 13th place, Pupo in 3rd place as well. Verla in 4th place. Yellow flag going out in sector 2. We can see the number 17. You can see positions live to the left-hand side of your screen. It seems Rakkonen has had problems early doors. DNF coming up for him, unfortunately. So that's a disappointing start to his season, but made the top split, so can use that to for some confidence going forward as drivers now make their way onto the back straight for the first time. And it seems Schuch is coming under a little bit of pressure here from Leroux as they make their way towards the final corner. Leroux closing him down here. Remember, this is a long race, 45 minutes, where we are going to have to see them do a pit stop. They will run out of fuel about 35 minutes into the race. So Leroux has got plenty of time here, Lewis, but will he want to make this move early doors, or will he take a patient approach, do you think?
I mean, I don't know, personally. I know what I would do in this scenario. I'd be a little bit patient, although if Zolcic is going to make mistakes like that, I'd pounce them straight away. This is back with the number 17, just ahead of one of the Arnage competition cars through T1, a bit further down the order, just outside the top 10, I think.
Yeah, that was Zitello, isn't it, going side by side there and dropping down the order, and that was the number 1 of Polesny trying to get down the inside, didn't quite make it work. So Polesny there with the red livery on the side of his car. You can see him second in this queue. That is Polesny, who qualified as the number 1 driver, making his way now to the right-hand side of our screen. Polesny to the outside here, heavy on the brakes as they come into the braking zone. Polesny trying to go all the way round the outside. Brave attempt there from Polesny, not quite able to make it work, but this is a battle over 8th place, and this is taking Polesny more time than he'd like to get through into 8th place. He's made a strong start to the race, but he wants to get a move on, and that looked like a move being done there, and I think that was 8th place for Polesny as we look a little bit further down the order. I think here, a little bit further up rather, that's our battle for 2nd place going on.
Yeah, indeed, Leroux ahead of Pupo. I've got to say, it was a big send for Wojtek Polesny to get up into that 8th position. I was wondering if that was going to open the door for the Arnage competition of Zetak to try and find through before we get down to the likes of Roland Such as well. It does seem as though Zolcic is just pulling away at the front of the field once again. You can see this, pulling over to the right-hand side. That's to break the slipstream immediately. Back over to the left, again, trying to break the slipstream before we get into that braking zone of the final corner at Sunset. It's so bumpy. You see how much they were moving around in the first lap. They do bounce over those curbs an awful lot.
I think that's is that Polesny again, potentially on the move. We might see a little bit further back. Here's the number 20 car. We can see that Schuch trying to get into the top 10. Polesny is away and clear from this battle now, so you can see Polesny now trying to go after the number 32 car of Verla. Battle's going all the way down the field. They know what's at stake. This is the thing, Lewis, isn't it? They know what's at stake. It's that prize of racing in the 24-hour of Le Mans Virtual as we go side by side in towards the 2nd corner there. Not quite able to make a move. But tell us, for viewers watching, tell us a little bit about the background of most of the drivers we're watching on screen.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the likes of Roland Such, who's not got too much. Wojtek Polesny, who's plenty experienced. Dennis Zetak. You've got Paul Auguste Lana, who's a couple of cars back in this battle. In fact, trying to attack Roland Such and moves him out of the way a little bit there. That's Paul Auguste Lana to come straight down the inside and drag it side by side off the corner. Driving in this for a team called Visceral, and Zolcic has lost out an awful lot of time here. He was 8/10 clear before we got to this part of the race, and Schuch is coming under a lot of pressure from Leroux and from Pupo.
Yeah, you can see Schuch there.
Too deep.
He's gone wide, isn't he? Schuch has gone wide there, and he's just gifted up the lead. There goes Leroux through into the race lead, and it looks like Pupo is going to go with him as well. So Zolcic, the pressure of leading the race has got to him. It's not for everyone leading the race there, and Zolcic, unfortunately, not quite able to work with it, and unfortunately running wide there. And Leroux is going to take over the lead of the race there, and I think that was Verla who had to take avoiding action coming onto the back straight there, almost going straight into the back of Schuch, and that's going to be a change of third place. So it gets even worse for Schuch. He drops down to fourth place now. Michael Leroux is our new race leader as we go on to another lap here at Sebring.
Really important though for Zolcic to climb out of his own head just a touch. You need to focus on the race at hand. You need to focus on what's going on ahead. Sure, you've lost out a little bit of time. You might have overheated your tyres ever so slightly, which is a big deal on rFactor 2. But realistically speaking, it's not too big of a deal. Zolcic is more of an open wheel specialist. So this is a totally different beast. I can't even describe the level of difference between an open wheeler and the Ligier LMP3. But it's very important for him to keep his to get his head back in the game, get his head back in the race. You might have lost the lead now. Save fuel, bring the tyres back in, and attack late on in the race. Those are the really important things as the yellow flag comes out once again in the first sector. That sounds like it's a crash in T1.
Yeah, I tell you what, I think it might be Mia Rose because she's tumbling down the order, sadly. She was running in P12, and now she's dropped down to 23rd place. Make that off the screen, so that's a real shame for her because she climbed up the order nicely. Three wide we go, and that is going to end in tears and has done, unfortunately. There we can see that was just never going to work. Too many cars into one corner, and we've seen two off on the inside on the grass there. Didn't quite see who that was going off, but we will see cars dropping down the order on our timing screens now. But here we can see Maki Yupi was just ahead of this Juha Maki Yupi, so it was battles going on for just outside the top 15 positions, that looked like, but Juha Maki Yupi was just able to escape that. Schuch in the number 20 running in 12th place. About to drop to 13th place, I think. Good move that from Maki Yupi. Mia Rose, we believe, is coming in, unfortunately, so that's a real shame. Here we can see a replay of what happened.
Yeah, down into T1, out wide, rejoining. Oh, it'd be down to third corner. Just a little bit of contact. And unfortunately, when you get onto that bit of grass out there, you are a passenger. Did manage to get back onto the road and get back going again, but big send-off like that. It's a slight bit of contact, but it's all you need at that. A little bit of wheel-to-wheel, and you're onto the grass. And whoa, big moment from Varkonyi. Wow, that's a big moment.
That was a good save, wasn't it? Mia Rose is down in 23rd place, by the way, so we'll see what she can do from there. But Zoltan Varkonyi having a good save. And is going to have to fight with the car again, really wrestling away, isn't he? Zoltan Varkonyi, as he tries to work his way towards the top 10, and that's a good move round the outside. Whoa. I think that might put him into P12. Someone going across the grass just behind that. Was that Schuch that might have, or was that the number 23 perhaps we saw going across the grass? But Maki Yupi and Varkonyi, we saw side by side. Varkonyi doing a good job round the outside there. Everyone really going for it. It is the first round, so the mentality of some drivers, it's for some, as you mentioned, bit of a new car for them, new championship for them. They all want to score big, and that could be getting to some of the drivers here.
Yeah, including our early race leader as well, who's Zolcic, who's dropped back to 8th position at the moment. So it's clearly had more of a moment. The thing is, so we saw a couple of lockups, right? This could be from overheating tyres. Now, this is a fixed setup. That means there's not much more you can do. You kind of just drive within the car itself. I think you can adjust brake bias and slight things that make it work for you as a driver. But if you're locking up, you're not only flat spotting the tyres, you're overheating the tyres big time. And that can cause some sizable problems later on. And that's what causes a little bit of tyre overheating and those kind of issues that kind of drag things out and make some problems. You've got a bit of a movement as well from one of the unarged competitions. I think that one might be Dennis Zetak ahead, trying to make a move on potentially Zitiello. Might be one of the Verlers, though.
There we can see the number 10, Varkonyi, in a really good battle here with Maki Yupi. Coming through turn 1, though, this is a driver on the move. Martin Marguli has done a fantastic job to get up to P4, charging after the top 3 now, doing a fantastic job. Walter Pelesny is the quickest car on circuit as well in the number 1, but this is a man going very well. Martin Marguli, one of the drivers that we mentioned a lot last season, Lewis, and going very well this year.
Yeah, had put on some great races last year, especially when it comes to moving forward. I've got to say, Wojtek Plesny, like you said, setting that fastest lap a couple of laps ago, also looking really, really strong as well. Working his way forward. Dennis Zetak having a bit of a lock of the rears, coming down into the hairpin just on the rear end of Salvatore Zitiello. Just locking it ever so slightly. Got Paul Auguste Lana as well. I think it actually might have been Zetak losing out to Paul Auguste Lana as well. So Lana making up a spot, who is also driving. This livery is visceral. We know that Paul Auguste Lana drives for, or used to drive for Volante. That is the rebrand of it. So he's been in this team for a while. It's gone for a couple of rebrands, a couple of changes, and yet Paul Auguste Lana stays alongside, stays with the team, and still fights his way forward.
We mentioned this is the drives from the likes of Plesny, Merguli. These are the kind of performances, and LaRue out front. These are the kind of performances that, particularly now the Cup races, you know, for those of you regular viewers, and a welcome back to you to a brand new season. Thank you for your company. But this is the kind of races where our teams are going to be watching because the Cup races are now before qualifying, which comes up next. So sit tight if you are waiting for the Le Mans Virtual Series qualifying for the first round. That is coming right up after this. This is the Cup race first of all, but they will be watching closely to see who could be their next stars of the future, and they are already going to be looking at some fantastic talents. We've just seen a couple of changes there, and I think we could see another one. Here comes Auguste Lane trying to make a move down the inside at turn number 1. I think that was a little bit ambitious, Lewis, but a good attempt nevertheless, but I think it's been handed to him on a plate. Thank you very much. Through he goes, or is that a back marker potentially? Is that Zolt Schuch?
Yeah, it is. That was the move that Paul Auguste Lana. I will just correct myself, by the way. Paul Auguste Lana's drive for SDL Esports, not Visceral. But yeah, I think it was Zolt Schuch that's just been sent off there. So his race gets worse and worse and worse. He's now down to 12th position. He was running 8th, so that makes a perfect amount of sense. But yeah, like you're saying, with some teams and drivers and whatever, there are a couple of teams on this grid that have an entry in of course, the Le Mans Virtual Series, including that pink and white. You'll get used to seeing these colours because that is our Nage competition. They do have a Le Mans prototype in the Le Mans Virtual Series. Now, I don't know if they're trying to field an extra car for Le Mans Virtual later on down the line, or whether they're just, you know, the drivers in this, maybe they're just trying to get an extra little bit on the grid, or just prove themselves, actually, maybe I should be one that you should pick in the squad as well. I like those little dynamics within each team.
Here we see the number 17, Walter Plesny, by the way, is up to P6, is lining up a move for P5, purple, sector 2, absolutely flying through the field. Here we see Zolt Schuch. Can we work out what on earth is going wrong here? Our pole sitter, and it's all gone wrong, hasn't it, for Zolt Schuch? Is this just a case? It doesn't look like there's any particular problems with the car.
Slight left hand down, I think. It's quite hard to see from this angle, but I do believe it would be easier if we see an onboard from another car as well. But it does seem, yeah, see, I do think that is slight left hand down.
He's got damage to the, there we see it.
And I think that is on the rear as well, because that's where, I said before, when it comes to damage on a car, on a race car, you want front end damage, not rear end damage. Front end damage will normally create a little bit more understeer, etc., etc. Rear end damage makes the car completely unpredictable going into a corner. Now the question is, where did he get that damage? It could have been on the exit of the final corner, it could have been with another car, I don't know, but what we do know is that Zolt Schuch is struggling a little bit. We don't know where that contact came from, but either way, he's definitely got it.
Plesny, P5, ticks another one off the list now. Merguli next for him, who isn't quite able to catch those top 3. I've got to say the top 3 are doing a really good job here. Here we can see Michael Leroux. You can see the top 3 all together, fairly equidistant between them. Let's go on board then with Michael Leroux. Talk us through a few corners here.
Yeah, one of my favourite corners in American motorsport, this one being Tower. Such a tricky one because you're going over to the left-hand side before bringing it up towards the right, punching it on. Great name for a straight, by the way, the Flying Fortress straight up towards Bishop. Again, great corner. This is where we saw the enormous crash in the World Endurance Championship from Pachito Lopez, obviously a bit earlier on in the year at the Sebring 12-hour, and then coming up towards Le Mans corner and out onto the Ullman straight, the back straight down towards the final corner at Sunset. brilliant section. This is one of the circuits which is loved so much in the endurance scene of sim racing, of motorsport as well. Of course, we're racing it here in Le Mans Virtual Cup because Bahrain is not released yet, which means that we'll be dealing with that a bit later on. So we can discuss that a little bit later on. But the Le Mans Virtual Series, I promise you, all of the drivers will be looking at this. Of all of the tracks in the calendar, I would say this is probably one of the ones they're looking forward to the most. Genuinely.
Yeah?
Yeah, no joke. There is so much character in this circuit. Everyone's like, it's flat, it's an airfield, there's some bumps in it, and maybe it needs to be resurfaced. It is a great track. It's a thrill to drive every single lap. I love it.
It's provided some fantastic races over the years as well, isn't it? Of course, is a place where we see kick off the season. Mikel Leroux makes his way now, and leading Papo, you can see just under half a second clear, doing a really good job here so far, sustaining the pressure well. A real shame for Such. You can see he's come into the pit lane. Now that might be, he might have just been hanging on enough to get long enough into the race to say, right, now I can serve the pit stop to get the fuel in, to now go through to the end and get as much points as possible. But that's
a damage repaired.
Real, of course, but that's a real shame for him. And here we can see Zoltschuk rejoins the race. It would have been a longer pit stop than required, or has he not been able to fix that damage?
I don't think that damage has been fixed. At least from that slight clip we had there on the onboard, I don't think the damage has been fixed for Zoltschuk. So I'm not 100% sure, but either way, we'll take a look as to what happened and where he got that damage. This is Zoltschuk. Oh my goodness! Yeah, he got sent off there. Wow, that was a big send off as well, and heavily into the barrier. No wonder he lost so much time.
There we go.
Not sure who it was that sent him off, though.
I didn't quite catch the number there.
It was, I think that was after he'd started dropping back. I think it might have been Zawad Stab in the dark. It might have been...
Careful.
I'm not throwing anyone directly under the bus. It might have been Leandro Vella. It might have been Mergulli. I don't think it was Mergulli because I think Mergulli was too far back by that point. I think it might have been Leandro Vella, but I won't throw him too far under the bus. I do actually quite like Leandro. I like both of them.
I have to say, Mergulli is being caught here by Walter Polesny and is about to be overtaken. Polesny is about to pass Mergulli. He is 1/10 of a second back. Those positions will change any second now. This is a replay of the start of the race then, Lewis. So all started very well for him. He absolutely nailed the start.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful start from Zoltschuk. Those behind kind of struggling a little bit. Had that look to the inside from Leandro Vella, or Lucas Vella rather, trying to take over about 5th or 6th position. The top three are kind of already cleared away by this point. There's that massive send down the inside by the Arnage competition man of Vella, and then that chaos in the background. That's kind of what we expect coming down towards T3. And yes, I know it's count the corners. I know it is actually T3, this one. It's a tricky... Whoa!
Hello. Oh!
Wow, we did not see that.
It really all kicked. The number 24 there, Guillaume Racadon, that's why he was DNF'd straight away.
I did wonder what happened to Johannes Dries.
Sean Arnold as well, unfortunately. His bad luck continues. We saw Sean competing in the original Le Mans eSports, where this, of course, where we saw this very journey beginning, Le Mans eSports, and Sean Arnold was part of that.
He's done a lot of racing.
Yeah, well, that was, of course, he raced in that back in 2019. Sean Arnold, unfortunately, he was very quick last year as well, qualified 3rd in the split coming into this event. Unfortunately, it's just not worked out for him, a DNF, and that is very similar to what we were saying about him last year in the Cup Series.
Yes, having great pace coming into it, but then losing out of the round for one reason or another. That's sometimes how it goes. That is just how these races tend to unfold. Bit of a moment there from Popo as well. So Leandro Vella is going to look to the outside and doesn't send it in the number 27. But I will say there's a little bit of a gap forming between 1st and 2nd. And also Polesny up into 4th. 6 seconds behind. Is he going to be able to catch?
Here we go. Talk us through this one then. This is Sean Arnold going out.
Yeah, down the inside. He lost it. He absolutely lost it on the rear himself. That was like he was going side by side, fair enough. And I think this might be a pulling over to escape to get off. Maybe he had too much damage. Maybe it was a solid RQ. But either way, out of the race, unfortunately for Sean Arnold. Bit of a shame.
Yeah, it seems the latter, doesn't it? It's a shame. Hopefully we see him back in the next rounds of the event. And if you're watching this and you fancy a little bit of it, qualifying for the next round is live from Sunday until the 25th of September. Round 2 will be at Monza on the 7th of October. Make sure you get your qualifying laps in. All you have to do is go on rFactor 2. Head on to our website and our social media for more information on how you can take part. It is completely free to take part. So get on there and get your lap setting. You will enter no matter how quick or how slow or fast you are. But if you're in the top 30 of the qualifying lap times set by the 25th of September, then you will take part in the top split, which will be the televised event, which goes out live before the Le Mans Virtual Series qualifying, which will be following this. Of course, qualifying for round 1 of the season 2 coming up next.
Yeah, and also, you know, if you're on the rFactor 2 competition system, there's a lot of other stuff as well, whether it's taking part for this Le Mans Virtual Cup. There's also plenty of other series and stuff. There's so much to do when it comes to the competition system. So it's a great thing that's constantly evolving, as we'll take a look on a replay as we see on board with the number 14 being Havasi. Ooh, that was a big slam into the barrier, though, from Darius Andre. So a bit of an issue there.
Now, Walter Polesny had just taken a huge, and I mean a huge chunk of time out of the top 3. There might be a bit of fuel saving going on here with our top 3. Either that or Walter Polesny has been doing the same. We are getting close to that point, surely. 45-minute race. How far away would you say we are now?
I would genuinely say, like, you want to run this out as long as possible. So one thing that, right, let's talk strategy. Let's talk shop. We're not expecting tyre changes, right? We're expecting to run these tyres to the end of the race, which means because you're not going to be taking advantage of an undercut, because there is nothing to take advantage of, you're running on the same tyres. If you come in and then fuel up, you're just putting more weight onto the same tyres.
You say we're not changing tyres, and that's because...
I don't believe so. I don't. In a 45-minute race, if you're stationary for too long, I think you just want to run the same tyres. Obviously, you know, changing the tyres will make a pit stop 15, 20 seconds longer. Not worth doing. Stay on the same tyres. Whoa! Hello. Was that a back marker? It must have been. Must have been a back marker. That was very scary, though, for our race leaders coming through. My goodness.
I don't think someone... that must have been, yeah.
I'm not sure which one it was, but wow, I've had those moments in racing. Well, that wakes you. You're calmly driving through, and then suddenly there's a car sideways. It's like, wow, okay.
The car in front of you quickly pulls to the left-hand side, and there's a stationary car staring at you.
Yeah, Leandro Vela, they're trying to find his way through the room. Yeah,
good driving from the top 3 there to avoid that one.
You want to, yeah, exactly. You want to run as late as possible so that you're running fast lap times towards the end of the stint. Fill up with the 15 minutes worth of fuel that you need as late as possible, and then bang, get on with it, finish the 15 minutes as we see a replay with car 25.
Now, I think this is where we saw this incident.
Yellow Binsbergen. Oh, yeah, that is scary.
Wow. Oh,
to be fair,
now was that LaRue that
I
actually?
Don't believe,
because Papo's now leading the race.
It might have been
so LaRue has actually hit Binsbergen there, and Papo now leads the race. So we are going to be seeing. I wonder, are we going to be seeing?
Oh, it was an orange car. Yeah,
a bent steering wheel on LaRue's car as well. Now I wonder. Are we going to be seeing similar steering damage to LaRue's car? We're on board with 3rd place Verla. This is looking back from Papo, who was in the right place at the right time to avoid the car there and go through into the race lead. LaRue had done everything right, but Binsbergen just spun at the wrong time.
It's bad luck, unfortunately. For me, Yellow Binsbergen does the right thing as well. Is that he remains stationary.
He keeps the brakes on.
Yeah, he stays still until they've all gone past. Because the thing is, if you're a moving object, you're unpredictable. It's a struggle to see. If you're a stationary object, you're easy to avoid in a sense. Is that, like,
you're not moving. I know where I need to go to get round you. As soon as you try and get off the race line, which is your natural instinct when you've gone sideways, is you want to get on with it straight away and you want to get out of the firing line. And sometimes it is the worst thing to do because you can't see where they're going. It's very, very tricky.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let's have a look what happened.
This is on board with LaRue. Yeah, so it was there. It's such a slight bit of contact. It is such a slight bit of contact. It looked a lot worse from off-board than it did from on-board.
Someone came into the pits there. That was Verla. Verla's the first of our top 3 to pit then. Right. Pit stops are underway. So earlier than you expected, perhaps?
Yeah, big time earlier. The thing is that I know some people might question maybe they were started with lower fuel because the car's lighter. You can go on the attack a little bit earlier on in the race. No. Also, there is one thing as to why you might want to pit at least one lap earlier is for anyone who's new to rFactor 2, contact is on in the pit lane. Zitiello runs wide and opens the door potentially for Varconyi to come straight through, coming down towards T3, as there's been a crash in the background as well.
Yes, there has, but that was a good move. We were watching this there. That was the number 17, wasn't it? Hervé Zitiello being passed. That was Varconyi getting past, I think that might have been. Change of position there for 10th place. Zoltan Varconyi now through. These two have been together pretty much the entire race. By the way, Polesny has brought the gap down to the top 3 to less than 3 seconds now. He's done an absolutely superb job. It just comes down to how long does he spend in the pit lane in comparison to those.
He might have burnt a little bit more fuel, might have to put an extra couple of litres. I can't remember what the fill rate is. I think it's about 3 litres a second. In a car like this, might even be slightly more than that, which means if he only has to put in 2 or 3 litres more, might be stationary only for 1 or 2 seconds more, which, considering the pace that he's got comparatively, I would take that every single day of the week. I don't know though, we'll have to wait and see. You can see as well Zolt's Schuch having more issues in the background, and Gabor Havesi might try and get through coming up towards Bishop. That's an interesting attempt, trying to get alongside before coming through this section. It narrows up so much rolling through this section of the racetrack. As I was saying though, contact is on in the pit lane. Everyone's got to remember that. You can't. I'd want to come in a lap earlier, right?
Yeah.
Just to keep out of the danger zone. Because if you come in with everyone else, I promise you, you're almost guaranteed a damaged car. LaRue comes into the pit lane then from 2nd place.
Right, LaRue's in. Polesny has stayed out. Merguli has stayed out as well.
Lucas Verla comes in as well.
So Verla is in. Right, we're seeing quite a few cars coming in now. Maki Yupi is in. Zitiello is in as well.
I think, from what we were saying earlier, this might be the last lap you can do.
So we're going to see. Oh, who was that? Someone had spun there, hadn't they?
I think it might have been Kainek.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Well, he just come out the pit lane. Just
I'm not sure. I don't think Kainek did. I think he was coming out of, or he was on the pit lane like relief road after spinning out there from T1 potentially. I'm not sure. I can't guarantee that was the
Kainek's running in 11th place, so yeah, that wouldn't make sense, would it? So Kainek, we think maybe had a brief spin. This might tell us the story. Let's find out. It's the number 11 car, which is Christopher Kainek. Makes a move down the inside.
Ooh.
There we go.
Turned in on a little bit by Darius Andre.
Darius Andre was in 10th, and he was 11th.
I say turned in on, by the way. The line through there is a little bit hard to see from that camera angle. It could have been Kainek missing the apex quite significantly. So obviously they'll dispute that one between each other and get on with it. Kainek going for another moment. See you, son, as we are right on board with Donat Prodan. Boom, that's a freebie.
And that one was definitely his fault. Christopher Kainek off into the grass there and rejoins, and I think a little bit of frustration in that mistake there, wasn't there, from what has just happened.
Also overheated tyres. That will cause a problem.
There's that as well, wasn't there? Here we go. This is going to be Leonardo Popo coming in, and Polesny, who has brought the gap down to 2.3 seconds. Now we just have to see what happens in the pit stops.
Does anyone go a lap longer? Merguli in, Berenger in, Paulo Gislana in, Zetak probably in as well for our nice competition. So again, reminder, contact is on in the pit lane. Leandro Papa comes into his box quite nicely, did slide in there a little bit. And this is what we're talking about. This is what they wanted to avoid, because this is busy in pit lane.
Yeah, everyone, a couple of cars have gone across the line. But other than that, Verla in the 27 came across the line. Here we go.
Is that Polesny right behind?
Here comes Popo out of the pit lane. Yes, Polesny has stayed right behind, so he's managed to do it with the fuel. And there we can see one of the other cars was that Leroux getting just back here. Here we can see Popo in the number 8 has come back out 2 seconds ahead of Polesny. Leroux is actually behind this, isn't he? So Verla in the 27 went across the line, but look what that's done to the top 3.
I mean, I know it says 2 seconds on your screen, but I can guarantee you that gap between Popo and Polesny is lower than 2 seconds. That is incredibly close between the two of them. So Polesny, there you go, it's updated there.
1 second.
1 second. He's got
Wow.
Verla directly behind. Polesny, after starting in the mid-pack of this race, is on the charge and is well in contention for victory here this evening.
Verla in 3rd, then we can see Leroux next along in 4th place. Here's a busy part of the circuit where we see Gabor Hevesi, as we saw loads of the cars just piling into the pit lane. It got very busy. Hopefully there were no incidents. This is the number 14 car of Hevesi, which is in the midfield, just behind Varkonyi. Mass ahead of that, Zitiello behind, Schuch in the 34 next. Rose, who is trying to recover after that off a little bit earlier in the race. An unfortunate incident for her on the recovery, 21st in the race so far. No doubt carrying a little bit of damage on that car, though.
Let's say you're Zolcic, right, who qualified as the 30, he's in the number 34. That's the position they essentially qualified their way into this in, which means that he wasn't even supposed to be in split 1. He was supposed to be in split 2, and yet he started it, he led a lot of the front, and yet I guarantee he's still going to be super disappointed. We can see Roland Schuch losing out a position here against Zitiello, or trying to go side by side with him anyway.
Yeah, side by side we go, and Zitiello gets down the inside, and that's going to be a change of position a little bit further down the field, but only briefly on the switchback. Schuch is going to get a little bit further behind, but Zitiello will have the inside line coming down towards the first corner, and Zitiello will get the place confirmed in towards turn number 1. Good driving from the pair of them there. Good racing going on in the Le Mans Virtual Cup once again.
Oh, too deep. That is way too deep from Zitiello.
On the brakes, as you said, and he's opened the door, and good driving leaves enough space on the inside. Lucas Verla has the best seat in the house for this one. Is he going to give Zitiello a little push down the inside here? I think he's thinking about it, isn't he? Which way do I go? Left or right? He's going to go to the outside as they make their way down into the braking zone. And Roland Schuch just ahead, but only for the corner. You can see Zitiello now back alongside once more. They stay side by side for half a lap around Sebring. Have you ever seen anything like this? They're still going to be side by side, but Roland Schuch there comes out ahead, just ahead of Zitiello.
Yeah, I've seen some side-by-side around Sebring. When it lasts that long, you end up losing a lot of time and you frustrate those directly behind. I think Zitiello is struggling a little bit with the car. I think Lucas Verla is struggling a little bit with the car because he's gone in way too deep there, and Cameron Barker might find his way past in all that through Tower. But that was a bit of a moment as we head back up to the race lead. Popo with Polesny and Verla as well. The trio separated by 6-7 tenths of a second.
Here we go, Polesny lining up a move for the race lead. This has been a long time coming. He's had to work his way through the order. Polesny, who qualified as the quickest coming into this event, started down the order though. Polesny has worked his way forward. He's run a little bit too wide there though, getting a little bit too keen. Now he's going to have dirty tyres coming down in towards the second corner. He's going to have to get the tyres back again. And Walter Polesny for now will have to settle for second place, but he's still got 10.5 minutes remaining to get this move done on Popo, but he has to be careful of Verla behind there in third place.
Yeah, it's very, very tight. Like you say, normally in a standard race, it'd be like, right, do not make a mistake, and you're almost guaranteed hanging on to the race lead. These tyres have done a bit of work, though, this afternoon already building up to this point, so they're already fairly worn. Polesny's probably more so than most, as he now looks inside, outside, and absolutely sent it. Big move from Wojtek Polesny.
Brilliant move from Polesny there, sold the dummy and went down the inside. Fantastic driving from Polesny, and that is the race lead with 10 minutes to go. Is Puppo going to have anything in response? No, he runs wide under braking, trying to keep up, and there we can see the view from behind as Walter Polesny drives off into the distance and leaves Puppo and Verla behind to dispute second place. Fantastic driving from Polesny. What a move to take the race lead. Has made a lot of good moves so far this race, but he definitely saved the best one till last. Puppo and Verla will now dispute second place. Leroux trying to close in fourth place here. Auguste Slade is in fifth place. Then we have Beringer in sixth place. Zitak is seventh. Maki Yupi is eighth. Varkonyi is ninth. Mass is in 10th place. Hevesi 11th. Schuch is in 12th place. Zitiello is next in 13th place. We go on board with Verla in the 27th. Another driver doing really well so far in this race. Qualified as the number 27 driver out of the 30 in the split, and doing really well, outperforming himself definitely compared to how he qualified, and he'll be very pleased even if he can just finish in third place.
And both of the Verla twins did last season at various points. This is not their chosen platform. They're normally more experienced elsewhere in sim racing, also towards the racing experience platform, but here on rFactor 2 I've been seeing them race this a lot. They're really enjoying their time on the rFactor 2 platform. Every time they go racing they move a little bit forward. This is certainly the best that I've seen out of Leandro Verla at all on this platform. Lucas Verla's had a bit of a tougher break this race, but still looks plenty fast enough himself. But for Leandro, looking really strong right now. I don't think has the pace to challenge for the race lead, but certainly could grab over that second position because Puppo's tyres look like they've certainly overheated, particularly on the fronts.
Yeah, like you said, we have done pit stops, but as Lewis mentioned before those, they would not have changed the tyres. They're on the exact same tyres that they were running when they came into the pit lane. The only thing they have done is injected some fuel into those cars to take them through the last 10 minutes of this race. Leandro Verla is on our screen. He's running in third place so far. This is the Le Mans Virtual Cup. At the end of 4 rounds, the top 2 will go to the third running of the 24-hour of Le Mans Virtual, and they will compete in the guest car. Last year we saw Luca D'Amelio and Christopher Hookfeld, the top 2, compete with Juan Pablo Montoya and Sebastian Montoya, who was recently competing in the FIA Formula 3 Championship. They competed in the guest car together. Who is going to follow in their footsteps? So far, Polesny and Puppo are doing a really good job. There's still a long way to go. It's a point scoring system. The first 3 rounds will see the top 30 qualify through to the 4th round, and then at that 4th round more points will be scored, and at the end of that the top 2 will be chosen. But throughout we may see drivers scouted off as we see some running wide. I think that was a back marker. Possibly was that
it was Varkonyi. Yeah, definitely Varkonyi losing out to Julien
running
Mass.
wide, unfortunately, so Julien Mass goes through. But we may see drivers, as we saw last year, being scouted, and I tell you what, the likes of Verla, Leroux, or Gosselin as well, who's putting in a fantastic performance. These kind of performances will see these drivers getting noticed by those teams. Racing in the Le Mans Virtual Series, where qualifying for the first round of the second season comes up in just a few minutes' time.
Yeah, and that'll be a big qualifying session, of course. Moving to a slightly different circuit, of course, that will be done at the Sakir International Circuit. We'll talk about that a bit later on. But focusing on the race at hand, just on the back of the top 10. Like I said, it's points, scoring points mean prizes, etc., etc. We know all that. Well, you can't score points unless you're finishing well. And to be fair, genuinely, round 1, I would absolutely take a top 10 finish. Yeah, absolutely. And so for these lot, I'm okay with it.
You've got to be in it to win it. You've got, consistency is key in a championship like this, isn't it? Christopher Hookfeld, he's a perfect example, isn't he? He wasn't someone who was winning races all the time, was he? He was in and around the top 5, in and around the top 10 quality. He was always in there in the top 10, but in and around the top 5. I remember the Nordschleife, he put in a particularly good performance, but he always had himself up there, and it was just a case for him. Luca De Melio, of course, was a driver who walked away with a few of the races, but he was someone who just scored incredibly consistently,
Yeah.
and that's what's seen him get noticed by RHE. And stick with us, because he is competing this weekend with the RHE team. He's been signed by them as a result of his performances.
And he never won a race. Looking at the results from last season, he finished 4th in the first race at Monza, then 6th, then 2nd in the final round of the actual main championship, and then in the final race of the season where it was about the top 2, that one, he finished 2nd behind Luca De Melio. Never won a race, and yet now we do see him taking part in the Le Mans Virtual Series as an actual driver, not as you know, an entry for winning. He's been signed by a team. He's taken part for a proper professional team as well in RHE. It's a big move, and it's all changed by moments like this. All bit of wide there though as we ride on board with Havasi Valcogni. He's gone wide and very wide.
And big teammates for him as well in that car, so we wish him all the best of luck for this season, and it just shows that it's the idea behind the Le Mans Virtual Cup. It's a proven system. It's seen drivers getting picked up, and these drivers not signed to these big outfits. This is the chance for them to show what they can do on the big stage and go on and make careers for themselves in esports, because that's now what Christopher Hoogveld has a chance to do. He has a chance to make a career for himself out of this.
In one of the biggest teams in sim racing, there are a lot of heavy hitters in the sim racing world, and RHG's in there, a bit of lap traffic as well for Pupo to navigate. He's still having to worry about Verla directly behind me, right on board with Leandro Verla. Prelesny's gone. See you, son. He is checked out from this battle. Roughly 3 laps left, 2 laps left to go here at Sebring. Prelesny's not a part of this battle anymore, but Pupo still hanging on to second position, hanging on to the valuable points that second place has.
I say it one more time, qualifying for the next round on rFactor 2 opens on Sunday, and it'll be open until the 25th of September. 248 drivers qualified for this round. We are only seeing the top 30 of those competing on our screens. The rest are racing throughout, but we are not seeing those compete. So get yourselves competing. You can do as many laps as you want. You've got a good few days there to go and set yourself a lap. So get practicing and go and get a lap in. And maybe next time you'll be on our screens and showing yourselves in front of these big outfits we see watching on. Here we go then, let's go back to this, because this is a very important battle, not only for this race but in terms of points as well. Remember that only the top 2 go through, and that'll be on the mind of Verla. If he can finish in the top 2 here, for his confidence and psychologically, that will be a big win for him.
Yeah, absolutely big time. Zoltz Schuch, by the way, has come back into the pit lane, so a big shame for him. Unfortunately, he drops down now, down to 28th position. Big shame. Leandro Verla certainly looked more than fast enough to get past Pupo, but it's a hard circuit to pass that. Slipstream is not king in a car like this. That's a little bit wide, though, onto the Ullmann straight from Leandro, from Pupo. And I think Verla, this is the best opportunity for him to make a send, and I'm not 100% sure if he was going to do it as we take a look on the replay with what happened to Zoltz Schuch. Whoa, see you, son.
Well, there we go.
That was a big one.
Up and over for Zoltz Schuch. Ends spectacularly. Started at the front, ends upside down, sadly. It's all gone horribly wrong for Zoltz Schuch. Started the race from pole position. We saw him leading the field through there. Sadly, he ended his race in a very different situation. Whoa, there goes Verla off the circuit.
Wow.
Manages to get it back on, and that could be his last opportunity to get past. Has been putting the pressure on Pupo, but Pupo has sustained that pressure incredibly well. And there we go. I think that's second place confirmed for Pupo, unless we see him make a mistake now or hit that lap traffic in a bad place.
Yeah, which could be pretty important, but you can see as we look at Pupo, a fair way behind Wojtek Plesny. They've lost 5 seconds. They're on the final lap of this race. And Papa, having kind of lost that from defending, was losing 2 seconds a lap to Wojtek Plesny whilst defending. We look back into this battle with Julien Mas with Havasi. Oh, big moment, he's a bit of a send as well. And Julien Mas has been sent around at the hairpin. Oh, that's such a big shame. He loses out to Varconi, he loses out to Roland Schutz as well. And that was, I think, a bit of a solo moment, locking the rears slightly. So easy to do.
Really unfortunate way to end. Of course, it is the last lap. In a battle like that, they are giving it absolutely everything. And one man who has done that and has done that incredibly well is the #1 car. He's going to finish with the number on his car. Wojtek Plesny comes down the back straight for the final time. Into the final corner he comes. He's driven a superb race. He might not have started from the front, but that is where he's going to end. A hard charge through the field for Wojtek Plesny, and he is going to take victory in the first round of the Le Mans Virtual Cup. A fantastic performance from Wojtek Plesny, a superb move to get himself into the lead as well, ahead of Leandro Papo, who's done a fantastic job to finish in second place. Verla gave it absolutely everything in third place, but couldn't quite get enough to get past Papo there. Fantastic driving nevertheless, and good points in the bag for the number 27, but no one could quite keep up with Wojtek Plesny. He had to really work for that. I'm not quite sure how he was able to make such progress and still maintain the same amount of fuel as his competitors as well. He's driven a superb race.
It was just by the smoothness. If you kind of watch it with how he was when we were riding on board, when he was going through the battles, we saw Papo running wide for a few corners, we saw some issues through all of that, but it was the absolute overwhelming smoothness from Wojtek Plesny that looks after tyres. It looks after fuel, and it's proof that you don't have to be attacking every single corner like your life depends on it. Back off a little bit, drive within the car, drive within yourself as well.
Absolutely fantastic, wasn't it? And he didn't panic throughout the race either, did he? He just ticked them off one by one. He knew there was 45 minutes on the clock, and not all drivers, some drivers forget that sometimes, don't they?
Yeah, I think that's where Schutz might have lost a little bit. Obviously, he got a little bit of contact, but, you know, as we can see some of the things that happened from earlier on in the race, that was the point. I thought Schutz was gone. I thought he was gone at the start of the race. I thought we weren't going to see him again, but he got brought back in. And then I think he got a little bit in his own head with a couple of those mistakes.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, our season gets bigger and better, but so does our studio, doesn't it? Absolutely fantastic to have this behind us this year. There we can see contact coming down towards turn number 1. We had a couple of drivers unfortunately hit trouble. What are they going to have to do coming back into the next round? There we can see some of them unfortunately ending up points-wise. Of course, they're going to be on the back foot. Is it going to be a case of, look, just remember, I'm on the big stage here. Of course, they're going to have to qualify still. Every time they have to qualify to be in that top 30. But it is a case, look, if I can go out there and get a win or a podium in, then I could get spotted.
Oh, 100%. It's not even that. And also, like, we even stay in the top 2 in this championship. I think one bad round is kind of like not awful, right? That sounds crazy, but trust me, over the 4 rounds that we're going to have in this season, we go racing at Monza, we're going to have drama at there, we're going to have drama at Spa, we're going to have drama at Bahrain as well. Like, anyone on this grid, they're going to deal with their fair share of drama. Even Luca D'Amelio, who won the championship last season, still had his fair share of drama. It was only Christopher Hugfeld who kind of got through without anything major.
Yeah. Schutz we saw there, unfortunately, a real shame for him. Sean Arnold as well. That was another one. You know,
Again,
massive shame.
Again, Sean Arnold. Such a big shame. Such an incredible talent as well is Sean Arnold. But I kind of have to wonder what Sean Arnold's going to do. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure there's plenty that he can do on the grid.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a fantastic start to the Le Mans Virtual Cup, hasn't it? We come back again, of course. Round 2 will be on the 7th of October. Make sure if you cannot compete, make sure you're with us to watch that, but get competing for that. Of course, though, after this now, straight after this, Le Mans Virtual Series qualifying. You, yourself and Martin Haven did the team and livery reveal. Who do you think the ones to watch are going into this qualifying session?
I mean, obviously, we've got the champions, right? That's red line in both LMP and GTE.
We'll ignore those for a second because there are a few others. The AMG Petronas Esports team, keep an eye on them. Incredible lineup on that. I said before as well, one that might be a little bit under the radar. Obviously, you know, Porsche, they're so strong as well. Got plenty of others in there. The Floyd Vanwell by Collers, they're super strong. But I would genuinely keep an eye on Race Clutch, Alpine. They're so strong as well. In GTEs, a little bit more open. The SF Velas Ferrari, I'm not too sure. But for me, it's going to be between maybe Redline and maybe even one of those Porsche Commanders.
Well, thanks very much to Lewis. We are going to do a quick pit stop and driver change of our own. Myself and Ben will be back to call you through qualifying just after this.
Welcome to the Le Mans Virtual Series. We are ready to go.
Oh, this is going to get messy.
Wow.
Oh, into the barrier.
Here we go for the lead.
Oh, there we go.
Going around the outside. That is a bold move, a little bit of contact.
The deserts of Bahrain, the Bahrain International Circuit is the venue for the first round of this year's Le Mans Virtual Series, and we are getting set for qualifying for what is the best and biggest stacked grid of LMP2 and GTE cars that this competition and sim racing has ever seen. I cannot wait to introduce you to some of the biggest names in the world of sim racing and real-world motorsport participating virtually here in a brand new circuit for rFactor 2, the Bahrain International Circuit. And doesn't it look stunning? You can't tell between the real and the virtual shots between our different mix-up of GVs here. It is also going to be the longest race in our series, apart from, of course, the 24 hours of Le Mans, an 8-hour adventure tomorrow from the afternoon into the evening. We do have a 5-round series starting off here in the Middle East with 8 hours of Bahrain. We then go to Monza next month for 4 hours around the famous Italian circuit with Spa-Francorchamps, Sebring, and then the Le Mans Virtual, welcoming the 2023 year. My name is Ben Cosenjuris. I'm joined, as you've already heard, from Chris McCarthy, and we are fizzing with excitement here in the studio because not only do we have our massive names from the world of sim racing winning from last year, but they're joined by some huge names in the world of real motorsport as well.
Yeah, it's a fantastic lineup, isn't it? Throughout both categories, really. I mean, particularly the LMP field, though. You know, some of the team names we've got in there as well, the AMG team, the Porsche team as well. Some of the drivers in there, absolutely fantastic all the way throughout. It's really hard to pick a winner. I think season one, 2.5 points between the top three just shows how competitive it was. I think we're going to be adding to that this year. You know, there was those top three, but 2.5 points between them. I think we're going to add to that even more this year with that entry list that we've got.
If you've just stumbled across the Le Mans Virtual for the first time and you're wondering what this is all about, we have tweaked a few things for this year, and here is your explainer.
The Le Mans Virtual Series will be run on the rFactor 2 platform and includes a 40-car field, which will be increased to more than 50 for the series finale. Each race features multi-class racing between Le Mans prototype and GTE cars. There will be driver changes, dynamic weather, and day-to-night transitions. The calendar will begin in the Middle East for the 8 hours of Bahrain at the Bahrain International Circuit before we head to the Temple of Speed for the 4 hours of Monza in October. A visit to the Ardennes Forest in November for the 6 hours of Spa-Francorchamps, and then we go stateside for the 500 miles of Sebring in December to round out the year. The 24-hour Le Mans Virtual will close the season with a January finale. Each team roster comprises of 4 drivers, with 3 being required to participate in each race. Teams must field 1 FIA-graded driver in their lineup in at least one of the events. Each driver will need to meet minimum and maximum driver times, and teams will work to create their own setups to optimize performance and strategy. Full simulation includes fuel usage and tyre wear, so strategy will be the key to success. Mechanical failures such as engine and brake failure can and will play a part, with aero damage caused by collisions affecting the car's performance, but can be repaired in the pit stops. The race director and stewards will oversee on-track action and will apply penalties if necessary. The prize pool is $250,000 across the series, half of which will be separated between the series itself and half will be awarded for the 24 hours finale. It will be split equally between both categories, and the top 10 finishers receive prize money according to their position in the series standings.
And the headline there, $250,000 on offer across our season, with the split for the Le Mans Virtual, the 24 hours, the big peak of our series at the end, well, at the end of our year, but at the start of 2023. And the rest of the season doesn't count for nothing, though, because we do have plenty of points on offer and therefore prize money as well, especially with this round being 8 hours.
Yeah, more points go out for grabs, 38 to the winners in comparison to the usual 25 if it's a much shorter race. So, yeah, this is a really, really important round. You know, you could really get ahead in the championship if you get a good result here. We saw that with some of the longer races last year, but it's a step into the unknown as well, isn't it? So for us as a series, in a virtual series anyway, so it's going to be really interesting to see how we fare here. It's going to be a bit of a level playing field, isn't it? We don't know who's going to go quick, particularly in the GTE class. So it's going to be very interesting to see.
The series was in its first year last year, even though we'd already done a Le Mans Virtual. So we had the second Le Mans Virtual to finish that year. All of that experience they gained last year will mean that the level will have risen, and all the teams that were quick to prepare, that had their advantage, may lose that advantage this year with everyone else catching up.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned there with Redline being so competitive and winning both, I think there was an essence, and to take nothing away from them, I think that they were just so well prepared for the series and with the platform and things like that, that they've just done so well, didn't they? And I think there was potentially an element to that, and there were some of the teams that we saw we would talk about them, what fantastic driver lineup some of the other teams had, but they didn't quite get the results that maybe we would expect them to do. They've had a lot of time, they've had a good few months now to prepare, they know what's coming, and I think because of that, we might see a lot of a closer field this year. So, yeah, I'm excited. Everyone knows what's coming now. Everyone knows what to expect. So, yeah.
It kind of, because they know about Spa-Francorchamps, they know about Le Mans, they know about Sebring, and they know about Monza. But we've introduced this brand new circuit, the Ligier International Circuit, Bahrain. It's a brand new build in rFactor 2. It's not even been released to the public yet. And this is the layout, the traditional circuit, not the oval that we saw once in Formula 1. But it's been a mainstay for WEC for many, many years. And actually, over the years, we've gone into this day-to-night race. It's a really good track to race endurance racing.
I love it. It's got a bit of everything to it, hasn't it? It's got the long straights, heavy braking zones. here we go. Here's one of them straight into the first corner. We're going to see a lot of overtaking into here, particularly in the early phases of the race. And then this is a great part of the circuit, long sweeping corners through where we're going to see the LMP cars really motoring through here. And this is where we could see the GTE cars really tested as well, particularly on tyre, where this could be a section of the track which comes into play.
Qualifying has begun for the GTE category. We've got 20 minutes of qualifying for both categories of car, but the categories are split into two, so there's not too much traffic for the GTE cars to worry about from behind and the LMP2 cars to worry about from in front. We should have about 15 minutes remaining of this session, and we're following a Red Bull team which has switched from the LMP2 category down into the GTE field. An interesting choice from Dennis Lind and G2 Esports that run Red Bull Racing, known as Oracle Red Bull for this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the team to watch for me in the GTE class. It's just an incredibly strong lineup. You know, Yuri Kasdorp out there, a big name in esports. Dennis Jordan likewise as well. They've got Cooper Webster in for this round as well. But there are some heavy hitters from esports in this car. Yes, they might not be used to racing in the GTE category. They're going to be used to the LMP, but I think they'll very quickly adapt. You know, incredibly talented team, and yeah, I think they could be the dark horses in that category.
Very different style of racing in GTE. You really do have to be careful with the traffic coming through, making sure that you allow space for those LMP2 cars, and it tends actually to be a much more condensed affair. We also should point out that they are aiming for a 1 hour stint per, and therefore should be doing 7 pit stops. Whether they can achieve that at this particular circuit will remain to be seen, but that is a longer stint than you would usually do in LMP2.
Yeah, it is. It will be interesting to see how they fare with that. One thing we will notice with the GTE category is no Corvettes this year as well. So more Porsches out there, of course, more Astons as well out there, which is nice to see. We can see the Oracle Red Bull Racing are one of the many Porsches we see out there. BMWs are back, of course, and we've got the Ferraris out there as well. A shame we haven't got the Corvettes back, but like we see with the 24-hour of Le Mans, we may see some appear when we get to the 24-hour of Le Mans Virtual, but it's going to be an incredibly competitive field, no doubt, and these are just one of the teams I think we could see challenging for the title this year. Here is, of course, though, the number 71 car that we saw do so well last year. 127 points scored, helped it win the title quite comfortably in the end. You can see Kevin Siggy and Enzo Benito in the car. Chris Lullum heading for them, who was an incredibly successful driver in karting, actually, both at national and European level. So great to see Chris also with them as well, but these are going to be very hard to beat.
It is a Redline machine. It's run by Team Redline, but it's basically a BMW Works team. The way that BMW enter sim racing this year is by spreading their support across different Works teams. And so we have 2 Works BMWs involved in the GTE category. At the head of the field, BMW Redline, and then BS Competition is another sim racing team that have the responsibility of carrying BMW, and in that team, ex-BMW Works driver Bruno Spengler as their pro driver, and we will see Bruno participate in this first round of the series. You nominate 4 drivers, one of which needs to be FIA graded, as we heard from the explainer, and quite a few of the GTE teams have been campaigning their pro driver in this particular race, unlike what we'll see later on in LMP2, where there are many more famous names but actually not appearing in this first round.
Yeah, and here we can see Kevin Siggy watching. We can see the onboard, we can see him. The focus of Kevin Siggy, and this is the beauty for those new viewers. This is the beauty we get. You can see the drivers without a crash helmet on, so you really get a view of their reaction, and that becomes particularly interesting when we get the pro drivers in who are not used to having that. But Kevin Siggy straight down to business. 2 of the Ferraris trying to challenge early doors, but it's as you were, isn't it? BMW Team Redline leading from the front. We're only approaching halfway into this qualifying session, but I think they'll be quite keen to lead straight away here. They'll want to make a statement early doors and get pole position.
Interestingly, we saw Yuri Kasdorp come out in the Porsche Red Bull machine. It's gone back into pit lane and not set a lap time. We're still waiting for 2 cars to set a lap time themselves, and the number 10 machine, which is Mahler Racing, also campaigning a BMW. Those are 2 cars that have yet set a time. Those are 2 cars that have gone out, come back in, and are now on their effectively 3rd stint of this session, with half the session gone.
Yeah, good to see Mahler. They're back, of course. We saw them race in the very first 24-hour Le Mans Virtual in a GTE. They raced in LMP in season 1. They're now back in GTE, and they've switched up their driver lineup again this year. Michele Di Alessandro, Mohamed Patel in 2 of the drivers in the car for them.
Kevin Seagate coming to the line, though. He is fastest so far with a 53.430. Now he crosses the beam and improves by 0.2 of a second, so puts himself over 0.2 clear of the 26 Sim Maranello Ferrari, which is, for the moment, in 2nd position. 2 Ferraris, although that's now changed with the 77 Proton Coanda Esports machine coming up into 2nd position. Australian Dean Warren piloting that car.
Yeah, and you mentioned teams that learned a lot from last year and could challenge this year, and I think this is one of the lead forces, if not the lead force in that, this 77 Proton car. They were very strong last year, and I think they would have taken a lot of lessons out of last season. Definitely one to keep an eye on this season. Their 88 car did very well, finished in the top 3 in the championship.
Interesting that Coanda have refocused with the help of Porsche into the LMP2 category, so they want to win this outright. And the Coanda kind of, let's say, more customer-focused cars, Proton being a customer provider in Le Mans, are now in they've still got 2 Porsches in the field, but they're not with the Porsche Works livery. They're with the VRS, the Virtual Racing School, and Coanda-backed liveries. So that kind of gives you an idea of where the backing is coming from. We're used to seeing Porsche in GTE, but the focus has now moved to winning this outright.
And we saw ProDrive there making their way into the pit lane, one of our rookies for this season, along with the likes of P1 Esport, who come up onto your screen now. So a few new teams to get used to. Another one is Satellite Racing rookies, likewise, as is Sim Maranello. In Speed as well, who we'll see throughout the all-Chinese driver lineup. But this is another new one, P1 Esport, making their way now through in towards turn number 10. And onto the back straight they go, just finding their feet so far. Quite close, isn't it? Look at that between the midfield. Look at 4th down to 12th. 0.2 of a second between about 8 to 10 cars there. Absolutely fantastic stuff.
I know Race Control, we're talking about making sure you stay on the circuit between turns 10 and 11. They don't want drivers putting 2 wheels out on the outside, entering that next section of sweeping left-handers. Yuri Kasdorp did kick up the dust there as he turned in to the left-hander. Time is not good, lost a lot of time in the middle sector. May well get a little bit of a slipstream from the 111 machine just ahead of P1 Esports, maybe too close and maybe compromised through the last turn. I wouldn't say so, but Kasdorp is already down quite a bit.
Makes his way up towards the start finish. I think maybe setting up for another lap, perhaps, is he? As he comes across the line.
It's an improvement.
The top 10, yeah. So into the top 10, P8 for now. They'll want to improve on that one, though. Not where they'll want to be in terms of a start.
Really nice field spread at the moment. BMW fastest, Porsche second, 1/10 behind, Ferrari third, 2/10 behind. So if you're talking about balance of performance, and we always have to get these different types of car as equal as possible, it looks like it's a pretty equal spread at the moment. The Aston Martins probably, if you look at the performance of the teams, are not to the same level as the guys running those very highest vehicles. And, you know, there's a Works Porsche, effectively. There's a Works BMW. And we haven't mentioned yet, there's also a Works Ferrari. It's down in 10th. It's actually the last of our Ferraris on the qualifying ranking at the moment. SF, Scuderia Ferrari Velas Esports team, is a Works machine.
Well, here we can see RAG Esports put in some good performances last year. FIA Formula 3 race winner from this year, Alex Smoliar, in the car for them in qualifying. So they've got their pro driver in, only 8 thousandths down through the first sector. Again, this is another really, really strong team, a team that got better and better throughout last season. Could they be ones to watch going into this season? Alex Smoliar trying to get them further up the top 5.
Well, this is a pattern you will see with our splits. The first split is actually not particularly tricky. It's basically from the start finishing line through to the middle of turn 4. So there's only about 2 corners in that. And then the middle sector of the lap is all of the tricky stuff, all the fiddly stuff in the middle of the lap, with turn 13 being the start of sector 3. And then you've got 2 corners in the start of sector 3. So what you'll see is a big loss of time in the middle sector. Smoliar's faster in the final sector of the lap, though, and gains a little bit on our fastest time right now. So a good final sector of the lap. A lot of people losing time in the middle sector, where Kevin Siggy in this BMW run by Team Redline is strongest right now. Let's see what he can do on another attempt. He's been into the pits, he's changed those tyres, and he's going for another freshie.
Here he goes then up towards the second sector is Kevin Siggy. Under attack, though, from the likes of Warren in the 77. We're watching him coming through turn number 11 now. Only himself to beat so far, but that could change any second. You can see the time to beat through the next sector, 124 across he comes. Only 0.04 of a second back from his already best time as he makes his way up towards the final 2 corners now.
Incredibly close in first and second sectors. We've seen people losing a couple of tenths in that middle sector, but Siggy is able to effectively match it. But these are the margins it's going to be throughout the whole of our 8 hours. In fact, he's decided he didn't like that one, so he's very, very close. But on his dashboard, he'll have more information, more splits than we know of. He will have seen that perhaps he lost time through 13. He was losing time into 14, and therefore he might as well bail out. Dane Warren, though, on a good one. No, he's going into the pits as well. With less than 4 minutes remaining, maybe this will be their last chance. Yeah,
the number 89 is improving. BS Plus competition. Ibrahim Khan in for them. They're running in P12. Personal best through the first 2 sectors. We might see them improve. The 66 Ferrari looks like it's about to improve. And there we go. Ibrahim Khan, P5. So a nice improvement there, but only briefly. The 66 Ferrari goes up to P5 now, so Schindler goes up to P5. Here's the in-speed car, very nice looking car, the all-Chinese team. You can see making its way down the back straight, all Chinese driver lineup, new team for this season as well.
Looks like they've got themselves on-site setup, working alongside their teammates. Great to see how these different teams approach these 5 races, with obviously the Le Mans Virtual being the big one at the end of the season, more effort being put in. We saw the likes of Coanda have their own studio. They all raced in the same studio and had a live stream showing their efforts. Ferrari did the same thing last year. And we had various Chinese teams doing things from gaming shows, didn't we? Quite a distraction when you've got fans watching in. Is this going to be an improvement? And he's going into the pits. I think we're going to have this pattern. Around now is the time to get the tyres changed. The track is obviously at its cleanest, and the temperature is starting to drop because the light is starting to fade. So we're going to have a classic kind of 20-minute Formula 1 style end of session where it just gets better and better.
I think for InSpeed, they're going to be similar to what we saw with the Axel Motorsport team last year, where they're just going to use the season as a long practice session and work towards trying to get a great result at the 24-hour, because what a success story they were, of course, getting P4, and you could see what it meant to them. So I think that's what we might see with InSpeed. So don't be too worried for them if they don't do so well at this first round.
A look into the sim rig of Patrick Schindler. He almost looks like he's looking up at his screen, doesn't he? Look very animated inside the car. I think he's done what he needs to do. So he's happy with that 5th position. There's no way to improve, not with 1 minute and 30 seconds remaining. And this is now the start of the challenge from Proton Coanda Esports. Australian Dane Warren is on a mission to find 1/10 of a second and try and knock Redline off the pole position. The champions from last year are starting as they left last season.
Let's see what they can do then. We'll keep an eye on the splits. Proton, of course, running in the top 3 last year in the championship. Let's see what they can do as they make their way up towards the end of the first sector. The 77 leading the 80 and their quickest of anyone through the first sector. So the challenge looking very, very good at the start of the lap as they come down to the hairpin at turn number 8.
It's Kevin Van Doren who is behind, and he'll be learning exactly what Dane Warren is doing right and wrong, so we'll be able to follow his teammate's car. At the moment, the 88 is down in 10th position, half a second off, a little bit of a lock-up on the front left tyre. It's kind of a normal thing going into turn 10 because the track falls away from you. How much time has he lost? This is the main sector where Kevin Siggy seems to be so strong. The braking into there and then the climb up the hill. The fast left, right, left before you break the beam of the second sector. What can Dane Warren do? That's the target, a 1:24.683. Breaks the beam. Is he slower? Just by 1/10 and a half. It's going to be an improvement. And Kevin Van Doren is losing time behind him.
And I can see Yuri Kazdorp is improving on this lap as well. He's done a personal best through the first sector, and so is the number 11 as well with Project One. They've done the best first sector of anyone, and they've done a personal best through the second as well. So keep an eye on the number 11 Porsche, currently in 7th.
Dane Warren to the line. Is he able to improve? He does improve, but it's not enough. He stays in second. Kevin Van Doren next over the line. Watching him come to the line is lost time. He has improved though.
And the number 11 went to P3. You can see that. Project One by Dora Esports goes 3rd place.
And that's Moritz Lerner, who is basically team owner of Dora Motorsport. He's the pro driver racing in GT4 at the moment. Obviously an incredibly talented sim racer as well. Made his name and getting his drives thanks to that. And he'll be very, very happy to get up onto 3rd on the grid. We're still seeing improvements as the checkered flag comes out. Kevin Siggy almost has one hand on the trophy. He's pushing through the second sector, but there is no improvement there. And although he's not going to improve, he will potentially finish this lap. Just a couple of corners to go. I don't think he needs to, though. I don't think there's any other challenges out there.
No, I think he can bail from this lap if he wants to. He's not gone quicker through the second sector, so there's no need for him to finish. He's shaking his head, and I think he'll bail. No need for him to do it. I think that is job done for BMW Team Redline, and he knows it.
Waiting for a smile from Kevin Siggy, but it wasn't forthcoming. Comes over the line with a bit of a wiggle. The lap was still very, very strong. It would have still put him, even with the celebrationary wiggles, on row 2. But BMW Team Redline, our champions from last year with such a strong lineup, are there once again. A 10th ahead of the rest of the field. A good last push from Coanda Esports with Dane Warren picking up the outside of that first row. But ultimately, from the very beginning, and we said it at the start, Redline are the team to beat. There is SF Velas Esports team. We haven't said too much about them. The 51 machine ending up in a wayward 12th position and last of the Ferrari teams that are out there.
Well, I've got to say, these standout performers have to be the number 11 Project One car. That is an absolutely superb result. Likewise, the 888 with Alex Smoliar in the car. What a result for him to get them in 4th place. Absolutely brilliant stuff.
BMW with the pole position then, thanks to Kevin Siggy and Team Redline. Proton Coanda Esports a 10th back with Dane Warren. And then, as you say, Project One Door Esports with Moritz Lerner, the pro driver, picking up 3rd. R8G with the 888 machine. Smoliar, also the pro driver, in 4th position. Sim Maranello just behind in the fellow Ferrari. Then Oracle Red Bull Racing only 6th. They will be hoping for more. Simsa Esports, BMW Team BS Competition in 8th position. The best of the Aston Martins is the pro drive backed Fire Esports team with T1 Esport in 10th. The second Proton Coanda Esports car in 11th position. The Works Ferrari in 12th spot, thanks to Michel. Then Yimi Yusula in 13th spot for Satellite. Marla down in 14th. D-Station and InSpeed round out our 16 GT cars from our GTE qualifying session. As we expected, Chris, tight as you like, and it's going to be very hard to separate those GTE cars when you come across a full stint. Tiny, tiny errors mean tiny fraction of a second's lost and gained.
Yeah, I mean, just under half a second between the top 9 cars in the end. You know, incredibly close between all of them, wasn't it? Really, really hard to pick. But, you know, red line, once again, leading from the front. It's exactly what they would have wanted to have done. And Kevin Siggy absolutely nailed it. We saw it particularly in that second sector. This was the first one, which a lot of them would have got pretty right, but it was the second one where you gain and lose all your time.
Yeah, and he went again, maybe even twice more, and was not able to better this lap. He was pretty equal. Look at the rotation he gets there into turn 4, the rear end of the car almost sliding too much. He was able to catch it, and this is really where he made up all his time. Great through the second sector of the lap, monstering the curbs as much as he dares, but we're keeping the tyres on the right side of the tarmac. Really tricky braking zone into that right-hander, and then also downhill into the left. And at the moment, we're in the heart of the second sector of the lap here.
Yeah, this is hard because obviously you've got to try and get the car as straight as possible whilst getting it lined up for turns 9 and 10. And now we're down the back straight, and this is a chance where you get a bit of a chance to catch your breath back before you come into a very quick turn 11. You can see use all the curb on the outside there and then chuck the car in. You don't have to run the car out, keep it in the middle of the circuit because you've got to get back across now to the left, flat out then through the next corner here.
It strikes me as though this setup would not work more than a lap because there's so much rotation, so much slide from the rear end of the car to help the front end get through the corner. And this is where it's going to be fascinating when we get to our 8 hours, because that's going to be a different car tomorrow. He's no way he could take that through a whole hour, but it's worked on a 1-lap sprint, and that's what he needs.
And that's the moment, that last corner, where you come into the heavy braking zone down there at turn 14. You can chuck it all away by just locking the inside front, but cool as you like. And you can see that in his reaction, that Yuri Kazdop, even as he comes across the line. Cool as anything, isn't he? And that's what took them to the title so comfortably last year.
And Chris, you know what it's like when you've got a car that's so oversteery like that, that's got so much rotation in it. In the sim world, it's quite hard to actually feel just how much you're getting. And these professional drivers are not doing it by the seat of their pants. They're seeing that rotation.
No, that is really, really hard, isn't it? But particularly for someone like Alex Smoliar, you know, he races an FIA Formula 3 car. And that is incredibly different because you're doing everything through, you know, through the feel of what's going underneath you in the car, and the G-force you get from racing in that is so different. Everything that goes through the muscles is now you've got to put that all into your brain. So yeah, that's why you would have seen Smoliar wiping his forehead at the end, because everything that usually just comes through natural reaction, he's having to put, you know, mentally through into himself.
Endurance racing, you are only ever as weak. You're only as strong as your weakest driver. That's one of the sayings about any endurance racing. And for many of these teams, their weakest link will be their pro FIA graded driver. But we've got Smoliar, as you've mentioned, and Moritz Lerner on the second row of the grid.
Yeah.
Those two guys have got to be people to watch out for, because they'll be handing their car over, in theory, to drivers that are better than them, potentially.
Yeah, it is. It's the other way around, isn't it? When we went racing for the 24-hour Le Mans Virtual for the first time, it was a bit of an explainer to say, you know, Fernando Alonso is actually the weaker driver here, isn't he? And people like him and Jenson Button were saying, teach me how to drive. Teach me how to drive. What do I do? You know, because it's completely different to driving a Formula 1 car. And it was probably the same for Max Verstappen, who, of course, we're going to see throughout the season. It's the same for him. When he first jumped in, he would have had to have done the same thing. Teach me how to do this, because they're just naturally catching the steering wheel as they go through corners like that in a single-seater or in a GT car. So it's completely different, and for them to get used to that takes a lot of practice. But they'll never be quite as good as these guys who have done it for years and years and years.
Feedback in your rigs is ultimately incredibly important, and we're very lucky to have fantastic partners here at the Le Mans Virtual Series, including one that is promoting this weekend, and you can get yourself a code to buy the very latest in Thrustmaster technology. Let's take a break. And across the weekend on Traction and all of our social channels, there are various codes hidden in our posts, and you can therefore win yourself Thrustmaster for the rest of the weekend, which will be a great way to start our series and start perhaps your racing career. Right, we're going to switch our attention from the GTE category to the highly, highly competitive world of LMP2, Chris.
Yeah. Incredibly competitive, isn't it? 24 cars out there. Which one of them do you pick? I mean, Red Line, of course, were the team that led the charge last year, that real-time hydrogen, Red Line car leading the way, winning the 24-hour and winning the championship, but an incredibly close. Here we can see the cars making their way down the end of the pit lane now. As I said, it was that point split at the top that was just so close. We'll see which one of them is going to walk away this year. We've got some new faces in there, and some big names as well. The AMG car, you know, Porsche factory teams, if you like, with Coanda. The Brabham name is back as well. How exciting is that? That's going to be pretty cool to see how they get on. So
and Van Wall.
Yes,
would you believe?
Yeah, as well. So there's so much to look out for. I mean, and we've got drivers that are jumping up. You know, driver transfer market in Le Mans Virtual has been pretty heavy as well. You know, some big names moving about from big teams. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see how this plays out now. This is the first time where we see, as we just saw in GTE, who are the front runners. And not only that, but who are the dark horses as well. So, yeah, this is going to be really interesting to see. Of course, that Rebellion car did very well last year, the #1 car. And the Floyd by Collis car also did very well. Of course, different name, different backing for them, as you mentioned, this year, though. And that's what's going to be interesting to see how they get on.
The Rolex clock has hit 5:30 local time, and LMP2 qualifying is underway. There is the Van Wall Floyd, effectively by Colles entry, but with new branding both in the real and the virtual world, and don't expect the performance to drop in any shape or form. They still have that same epic lineup that they've run the last couple of years. It looks very different. I enjoyed the yellow stripes last year. It was an easy one to see, but still, I think they will be. They were always a force last year.
You know what, they've raced. They raced in the first running of the 24-hour Le Mans Virtual as well. They qualified so well at that as well, and they raced in it very well. They've always been there or thereabouts, and they've been incredibly close to the top step. And you get the feeling that, you know, their season for the top step is not far away. Could this be it? You know, they've been knocking on the door for ever since we started now. So they're definitely ready to go and fight for the title. They've already fought for the title, but they're definitely prepared enough to go and win it. So yeah, definitely one to watch and interested to see how they get on. Consistency in a team, I think, is important as well in a championship like this, and can help you out a lot.
Jene Simoncic is aboard that car for qualifying. You are actually allowed to change your drivers if you need to, but most of these teams, or all of these teams, I'm sure, will have fixed on somebody and chosen the main man, Jene Simoncic, with multiple championships to his name across various, many years. He's not a sprightly young new boy into the world of sim racing, but he is incredibly fast and a man to be reckoned with. He is the fastest man, or was the fastest man out on circuit. In fact, still is the fastest man out on circuit through that first sector of the lap. He's got clear track ahead of him. And we, of course, expect the times to get better and better as the session wears on. But it's great to see these cars in the dusk of Bahrain and the slightly dusty environment that is provided. Incredibly hot place to go racing, and there's no doubt that there'll be many sim rigs and sim rooms around the world that'll also be equally as warm.
Yeah, we had obviously the all-Chinese team, the InSpeed team. We've got the Mexico racing team out there as well. It'll be interesting to see how those guys fare. It's good to have those guys. Of course, we had the Axel team do very well last year. We've got the Mexico racing team out there in the number 29. So keep an eye out for those guys as well. They're just another one of the new rookies we have on the grid. Likewise, the Pescarolo eSport team as well. So another exciting new addition to the grid. There is plenty of them out there.
Let's talk about Mercedes, because it was a kind of Le Mans virtual time last year where there were rumours that Mercedes AMG were about to expand from their involvement in sim racing through F1 eSports to globally getting involved in anything and everything, including the very biggest sim racing events, which is basically the Le Mans virtual and in the series that is included. They have decided to run a team for themselves. That is AMG Petronas Esports, and that's run out of the Formula One team where there is a sim room. And then they have a partnership with Williams Esports, and therefore we've got the AMG team Williams Esports, not to be confused with Williams Esports, which are also running a car for themselves. There are some slightly confusing partnerships around in the LMP2 field, but ultimately the big story there is that Mercedes AMG putting huge backing into the world of sim racing, and therefore recognizing that this is the place to showcase. And their lineup, by the way, is to this weekend Bono Huis, who ultimately probably is one of the richest sim racing drivers from his performances and winning that Visa Vegas E-race many moons ago. But the prize was $1 million at the time, and therefore, in theory, he should be one of the richest men in sim racing. Whatever happened to his prize money, who knows? He is now joined by Red Bull Racing and fellow winner in Formula E terms, and that's rFactor 2 as well, so there's a good feeling there, Graham Carroll, and then world's fastest gamer and multiple ACC champion, James Baldwin.
Yeah.
Not only are they amazing drivers, they are star names in the world of sim racing.
Yeah, James Baldwin was the first winner of Le Mans Esports as well, out in Le Mans in 2019. So,
yeah,
I mean,
on a completely different platform altogether.
Exactly,
yeah.
and look what he's gone and done. So he's been able to jump across. That just shows his talent. And as you said, world's fastest gamer. That says it all for itself, doesn't it? James Baldwin, a very talented driver, a very exciting one for them as well. Went and raced in the British GT Championship and was very quick in that. So great to see him there with the team.
And crucially, because he did that and has real-world experience in GT racing, he is their nominated pro driver. He has an FI international license, and therefore he ticks that box. So not only is he possibly one of the fastest sim racers that exist, he is also their pro driver, so they don't have to compromise too much on a pro driver that has, as we were speaking about earlier, a little bit less experience than their teammates. Interestingly, Graham Carroll is aboard that car for this session, and they are at the moment in 3rd spot. It's the #1 machine. It's Team Redline. You might get bored of us talking about Team Redline over the 8 hours tomorrow, because they are starring once again. Jeffrey Rietveld is aboard the #1 machine, which is fastest with a 1:41.324. Many teams and drivers, though, bailing out of their first attempts.
Yeah, so some great ones. So obviously having the Porsches up there as well, that's going to be exciting to see how they fare as well. Really excited to see how the Porsches go, essentially doing what they're going to be doing in the real world. So they're jumping up the categories there, and it will be exciting to see how the Porsche teams fare there with Coanda, of course. The Axel team, who we mentioned, have bought a bit of a transfer driver lineup in this year as well, so off the back of that fantastic result. And here's a team who always goes very well, the Williams Esports team, have always been very quick.
Winners, of course, of our very first Le Mans Virtual, Nikodem Wisniewski having a bit of a slow middle and last sector of the lap there, so not as fast as he was expecting. Just going back quickly to reference those Porsche Coanda drivers, all big names in the world of Coanda and sim racing. Josh Rogers, Matt Backham, Martin Kroenke in the 23 machine, Mitchell de Jong, Tommy Usgaard and Zach Campbell aboard the 20 machine. They are joined by pro drivers Aychan Guven in the 20, and again another guy who is about as fast in the real as he is in the virtual, and then Lauren Heinrich is in the 23 car. So huge Porsche Coanda esports. The logo is changed, the livery is changed. There is Josh Rogers, the Australian multiple time champion, but not necessarily in rFactor 2. But these days, if you want to be a champion in the world of sim racing, you have to be able to jump into any platform and be fast. And Rogers, I think, over the years has proved that, even if he doesn't have the championships to show it.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those familiar names to the front, isn't he? He's one of the names you tend to mention quite a lot, and for all the right reasons as well. So he's a very exciting name to have in that car, and you can see why this is a very good class to watch this year. And even the likes of the Team Fordzilla team, who we saw briefly in the background as well, they're going to be a really exciting team to watch this year as well. Luke Browning out in the car for them, their pro driver this year. They're a team that's knocked on the door of some great results as well. Sergio Sette Camara is out there as well. He's out there with the Next Few team as well. So some great drivers. Those two very successful single-seater drivers. Here we can see Rietveld coming into pit lane.
Yes, and don't get too confused, dear fellow watcher, because that is a Team Redline car, even though there is Red Bull logos on, because there's now a partnership between Verstappen.com, which is Max Verstappen's esports team. Max Verstappen always has been part of Team Redline, and so it's effectively just another rebrand of Team Redline. That brings the Red Bull sponsorship. So it's not a Red Bull car. They are Team Redline run machines. Max Verstappen.com partnerships. The Red Bull comes from there rather than them being Red Bull drivers. Here is Tom Lartelou, once upon a time a pad racer, and now he finds himself right in the heart of a Alpine team.
Yeah, and again, just another big manufacturer that we've got with us in Alpine Esports once again. So it's just it's a fantastic grid all the way through, isn't it? And when we see all these guys charging down towards turn number 1 for the first time, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I
have a feeling that Tom Lartelou was once known as Storm. I think that was his tag. And he was either a Forza or a GT Sport driver. One or two. I believe
it was the latter.
Was it the latter? Yeah. But a champion in it, because I remember him being part of the Champion of Champions event. But I've not seen him at this kind of a level in kind of serious hardcore sim racing, which obviously rFactor 2 is. So great to see him coming up with Alpine Esports. And again, Alpine Esports have had a competition running throughout the year. They've put a huge amount of backing into esports, Alpine being the brand that is effectively owned and run by Renault and run the F1 team and the obviously WEC team as well, that's participating at the head of the championship in WLC and potentially could take the championship. Great squad that he's alongside with Spork and McDuff. Their pro driver in that number 36 car is not on my list. But again, mainly French team there, as Alpine tends to do. But they actually have had I think James Baldwin is the champion of their esports series that they put together over the last year.
Oh, well, that's just another thing he's won.
It's just another thing he's won.
Oh, there we go. Carrying far too much speed here, the number 444 car into the corners. Just has to tail it down a little bit here. Road check, just getting a little bit too eager. But then again, rotation of the car is something that he is getting out of it. So, but we can see.
Yeah, so these are two teammates. Van Wall number 4, run by Burst Esports, and then Van Wall number 444, run by Burst Esports. They are known differently as Floyd in the number 4 and then Next View in the 444.
here we can see the number 4 car, as we said, has been a front runner for a long time, and no difference. Second overall, 55 thousandths back. Jurnej Simoncic in the car, 141.379, so second so far behind the number 1 Team Redline car. Then it is the number 28 car next along of Jas Heat.
Another team we haven't spoken about.
No.
Jas Heat Veloce, another powerhouse in the world of esports. Jas Heat, obviously, Yas Island being the venue of the Formula 1 circuit over in Abu Dhabi, hugely supporting esports over the last couple of years through their team Jas Heat, which is run by Team Veloce, and they have a massive lineup of drivers there, including Eamon Murphy, Isaac Gillinson, and it is Pajek aboard the car right now. Their pro driver is Sean Mitchell.
And we see across the line, there comes Team Redline. But yeah, Jas Heat 8th in the championship last year. Let's see what they can do. Again, I think they're another team who would have worked a lot on, coming into a second season. We'll just see them improve with the experience they've had of a season behind them now. That first season was a bit of a learning curve for a lot of the teams out there. Not as much for some, but for others, I think it was. And that's nothing against them as teams or drivers. It's just because it was a brand new championship to get used to. There we can see that was a good first sector, but tailed away towards the end there for Pinto. And 7th place in the number 2 Team Redline car.
There is the Jas Heat Veloce livery, all in white, and the well-known V, faster in the first sector, which seems to be the case with a lot of these cars, but it's the middle sector where, once again, you make the difference, and once again, it seems the Redline car is much stronger than most. Let's see what happens as Pajek comes to the 2nd sector of the lap.
Alartalu just went up to 5th place, by the way, so good improvement as Carroll, I think, was that improved. In fact, that might have been Rogers improving as well. De Jong has come into the top 10 as well, so we're seeing plenty of improvements. But Jas Heat,
he's going to the pits, I reckon.
Going for the pit lane.
Let's point out that you can't just sit at the side of the circuit and press escape. You have to bring the car back to the pits. Only once you break the pit lane speed limiter are you allowed to then escape back to your box. So you do have to do an in and an out lap as well as your fast lap and get the tyres changed. I reckon they might have a chance for another 2 if they're fast. Otherwise, this could be the last opportunity, the last set of tyres, and we really then will see who is going to take pole position for this first round of the 2022 Le Mans Virtual Series. Maybe less important to get pole position here, but it's so competitive that, I mean, look at the field spread. Less than just over half a second separating the top 14 cars.
Yeah, GR Vector Esport as well, having a good start, up in 8th place for them so far, so going along very well. Just outside the top 10, the number 18 R8G car. That's the team where Christopher Hugfeld, one of our 2 winners from the Le Mans Virtual Cup last year, is racing this year after being scouted by them.
And there is their teammate, the number 8, up in 4th position, 2nd row of the grid right now. Romain Grosjean's team, R8G. This particular car with Matthias Besch as their pro driver. Besch will not be participating in this race, so he's handing over the responsibilities to Jiro Thurman, Jujovski and Marcel Sinchik. Interesting that Jujovski's not being used in qualifying. Usually he would be the man, but in 3rd position right now. That was a faster lap time. They're not going to have a chance to go again, so they, I fear, might be bumped back a little bit, but that was a great effort from the Hungarian.
Yeah, good stuff there. P3, so only a 10th, just under a 10th and a half back, 2 tenths between our top 4, half a second between the top 12, less than that in fact, so incredibly close out there. As we take a look at one of the other R8G cars coming into pits, everyone's getting ready for that 1 lap. They're going to do the 1 warm-up and then go for 1 more lap at it As we can see, we're looking down at the, I think this might be the number 5 car, the Williams Esports car, down in 13th place so far.
Expect to see Jack Keithley and Sami Matti-Trogan aboard this car, but it's Peter Bergelac who is piloting it in qualifying, and he's going to pit lane. I don't think he's going to get another chance to go out again, so it's only going to be 13th or worse for Williams Esports. How is their teammate doing? Which is the AMG team, Williams. That's a 53 car, and they're just behind, actually. Wisniewski in 14th spot.
Fordzilla look like they're on to improve. Ottaviani is in the car for them. Here they are. We picked them up just in time as they come up towards the end of the second sector. A couple of tenths will take them up a good couple of rows, but they not able to improve through the second sector. Also out there trying to improve the number 100 car as well. That's the Arnage competition car, but we follow Team Fordzilla now making its way into the final 2 corners.
17th spot only for the effective Ford Works team. Luke Browning, the pro driver, he'll be participating in this race as he's got a weekend off from his Formula 4 campaign. It's 0.6 of a second off, no improvement from Alessandro Ottaviani, and that will be the end of the session for him. And Ford, you know, super amounts of money going into the Fordzilla team. They are everywhere, but unfortunately the results for the moment have not been coming.
We've got other teams out there, Ferris Stanley trying to improve in the number 22 as well, the Rocket Sim Sport car as well, the number 65, of course, the Panis Racing team. They've done a personal best through the first sector as well. Casabon in the car for them. Let's see if either of those can improve on this final lap. Rietveld has done the best second sector we have seen of this session so far. As we pick up, is this the Simsport car? I think it is, coming in towards the 11th corner now and up towards the end of the second sector.
30 seconds remaining on the clock. Ferris Stanley pushing hard. We're going to see many more improvements further back. We bail out of Ferris because we're going to follow Jeffrey Rietveld, who has been the fastest man through the second sector. He's improved slightly in the third sector as well, although many people have been faster than him, and he goes faster once more. Rietveld secures himself at the head of the field. Can anybody find 0.2 of a second to topple Redline from a double pole position here at the first round of the championship? The flag flies. There are plenty of cars on laps, but none look fast enough to topple Jeffrey Rietveld to the number 1 machine.
Nikodem Wisniewski has just done a really good first sector, actually, and it was quicker than the first sector we just saw from Jeffrey Rietveld as well. Nikodem Wisniewski is the one to watch. He is the quickest car on circuit as he comes down through at turns 9 and 10. Nikodem Wisniewski could be the driver that potentially knocks Jeffrey Rietveld off the top. Tom Lartilu trying to improve as well. We've also got Josh Rogers trying to improve from 8th place, but this is the car to watch, Ben.
There's Wisniewski. I love the livery of that. The silver of the silver arrows at the front, the Williams chill blast in the rear of the car. It's a real combination. Nice bit of rotation. Could be too much for slide. We're seeing some improvements in the top 5. Wisniewski 4.5 tenths down though, and that is going to, well, he can still improve from there. He is 7 tenths down in 14th position right now. It depends on how much time he's lost in the last sector of the lap. Comes to break the beam. It is going to be surely an improvement, but not enough to challenge the top of the field. He goes up into 7th spot. Further back behind, is there improvements coming through? No changes in the top 13 positions right now. As you say, Casabon is the man to watch, isn't he?
Yeah, Casabon looking pretty good, actually. Down in 16th place, only goes peak 14 though. And I don't think we're going to see any major improvements.
There's one more car, I reckon, that has the possibility. Peter Bergelac, but he stays in 15th spot, so he bails out of his lap. I think he was on a good lap, but went straight to pit lane. So that is it. No more other cars can challenge, and we have ourselves a grid for tomorrow's 8 hours of Bahrain. It was a good effort from the Williams AMG team, with Nikodem Wisniewski, our first Le Mans virtual champion from Poland. But ultimately, Redline with pole position in GTE and Redline with pole position in LMP2 as well. They are our champions, and that is very much a worrying onus for the rest of the field.
Yeah, it's as you were, isn't it? but from last season. But you know, a great challenge from Simoncic there in the Floyd Van Wall car. 2/10 behind, though, just shows how quick that lap was. It was another masterful lap, wasn't it? 2/10 clear from the rest of the field. But good to see 3 different outfits at the top.
Red line with the pole position, 0.2 of a second clear of Floyd Van Wall by burst, with R8G in 3rd position, the second red line car of Diego Pinto in 4th spot. Then it was Yasheet Veloce, good effort from them. Porsche Coanda only with 6th spot. That's Josh Rogers' car, the 23. Alpine next up, and then we scroll a little bit further down the field. The second of the Porsches in 12th position. Williams Esports down in 15th. Rocket 16th. Fordzilla in 17th. Then famous names from Le Mans. Pescarolo 19th. Brabham in 20th spot. But the field spread is so small. 1:41.1 was the fastest, a 1 second spread to 17th position, where the second of the Fordzilla cars is. Mexico Racing Team round up the field, really, with not a representative lap time whatsoever. Well, there you go. Red line. 2/10 clear of the rest of the field. But that is qualifying. That's that 1 lap. It is so different from 8 hours of racing. Here is his lap just behind us. Oh, bit of traffic at turn 1.
So this is this is the second fastest lap, but this was still the lap that put him on pole position, just not the 1/2 clear. But still good enough for pole position. You can see this was coming down towards turn number 4 now. Absolutely perfect. You can see just how on the limit you have to be, particularly through this section of the circuit here. Car placement, absolutely everything. Use all the curves. Now get back over to the left-hand side of the circuit, straighten the car, under braking.
Missed the apex there a little bit. There was a 10th there that he could have found.
Yeah, and that will be something. That's where he would have found potentially some of the extra time that took him 2/10 clear. Coming downhill through turn number 10, that was absolutely perfect. Now as we come down the back straight, and so far so good, this is the point where he would have known he was on for a pretty good lap as we come up towards turn 11 now. Let the car run out slightly, get back across to the left. You can see the amount of speed they carry through this section of the circuit, particularly here. Quick dab on the brakes, down the gear. Now tip it into turn at number 13. And then they come up towards the final 2 corners.
That was beautiful, wasn't it? From 10 through to 13, the way the car rotated, the amount of speed he was able to carry through the corners, the slower parts, it's just working so well. A little bit of understeer mid-corner there, but he didn't even challenge the apex, the curb on the outside, and was able to get the second fastest time, and then he was able to improve on that. But as I've said, in the GTE category, a car that can do a fast lap in 1 lap is different to a car that can survive 8 hours. And I'm interested also to see how, when we looked at that on board, it was still daylight. By the end of the session, we were in nighttime. That means temperatures would have dropped. Was that just enough to take away the performance of the track from those guys trying to do a last-minute effort?
I'm not too sure if it would have done. I mean, sometimes when you're going into the night like that, that's where you can sometimes see the best times come out. So I'm not too sure it would have done. I just think drivers would have been relatively pleased with where they were. But you know, Rietveld went for it. I'm not too sure why some of the others didn't go out. Maybe they just didn't feel they had the time to get one more in. But yeah, it was a shame we didn't see more going for it at the end there.
Yeah, we didn't see so much improvement at the end, but ultimately they will also be looking at that time and going, not quite sure how I'm going to deal with that one. It's quite a long way away from us, but there will be plenty of head scratching going on, and they will be working so hard overnight now to get themselves prepared for the 8-hour race, a very different philosophy, an endurance race, and of course the traffic to contend with, especially in that second sector, will be very, very tricky. It's going to be a fascinating contest. We've got 2 races within one. We've got 8 hours of competition. We've got some of the very best names in the world of sim racing participating on a new track with day-to-night transitions and all of that entails such a huge endurance race. Myself, Ben Costengeris, Chris McCarthy and Lewis McGlade will be with you for all of the action tomorrow, kicking off at 12:30 local time here in the UK. Set your watches wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed our qualifying coverage. And of course, let's not forget the Le Mans Cup race that we had earlier on. A very entertaining encounter. Follow all of our social channels for all of the news. Until we'll see you tomorrow, 12:30 local time. Have a great evening and enjoy your sim racing. Bye-bye for now.
Welcome to the Le Mans Virtual Series. We are ready to go.
Oh, this is going to get messy.
Wow.
Oh, into the barrier.
Here we go for the lead.
Oh, there we go.
Going around the outside. That is a bold move, a little bit of contact.